In Minnesota, launching a lawsuit against the Trump administration over immigration enforcement actions in both the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul, the Twin Cities. This comes after sources tell CNN that about 1,000 additional ICE officers are heading into the Twin Cities region. We're also learning that the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago have filed a lawsuit against the Department of Homeland Security, alleging that the agency has terrorized residents in organized bombardment, in their words. Let's bring in Sheriff Christopher Swanson. He's a Democratic candidate for governor in Michigan. We brought him in to speak about last week's deadly shooting of Renee Good by an ICE agent. And obviously, we want to now talk to him about this lawsuit. Sheriff, what is your reaction to the lawsuit in Minnesota against the Trump administration?
Yeah, what other option do they have? And they're trying to use the legal process, which is due process, which actually is the example that should be used that got us in this situation in the first place. If things were done fair and humane without cruelty, we wouldn't have the situation that we have. And unfortunately, I don't think this is the end of it.
You called last week's ICE-involved shooting in Minneapolis, the shooting of Renee Good, tragic but predictable. You criticized the tactics that ICE used both before and after the shooting. I want you to take a listen to my interview, part of my interview with the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem yesterday about the ICE officer who appeared to have fired 3 shots at Renee Good. Take a listen. What is the reason for the second and third shot through the window when he is out? He's not in the line of sight of the car.
This investigation will continue to unfold and more information will come forward. But until that comes, what I would appreciate is everybody sticking to the facts of the situation and recognize that this law enforcement officer took action based on his training to protect himself and the public.
Sheriff Swanson, is it relevant, the second and third shot, the first shot being through the front windshield, the second and third being through Renee Good's side window? Obviously, he's no longer in the path of the car.
You're spot on, Jake. The bottom left corner of the windshield was the first round, and then the 2 rounds that were punched in on the side of the window through the driver's side. The danger is no longer in front of you. It's cleared it to the side. And that's my criticism. And you know what? I think the bigger issue is you can be critical of law enforcement actions and still support the police. I am the police. But that situation and that shooting, there was no de-escalation. It went from verbal orders to deadly force in 3 seconds to somebody who was unarmed, turning away at 2 miles an hour with people surrounding the vehicle with whistles.
Presumably, at least in part because of this controversy, over the weekend, ICE put out publicly a list of some of the criminal undocumented immigrants they have arrested in Minnesota. Some of them have been convicted of sexual assault, of children, rape, domestic violence, homicide. So they are getting criminals. They are getting people off the streets who shouldn't be on the streets. What did you make of that?
I agree with that. If people are here undocumented and committing crimes against American citizens, just like we did in our ghost stings that 2 individuals from Honduras come here to have sex with an underage kid, they're gone. But the majority of the people that are here trying to make a better life, that have never committed a crime, that have never had a situation, that are trying to do the right thing, yet the process takes years. Why don't we focus on those people, give them a pathway to become American citizens? This is where the lines are blurred. Not everybody are the people that you just listed.
What do you say to people who argue that ICE and federal agents, they're not local police, therefore their trainings are different, the way they deal with protesters is different, and therefore authorities like you, a sheriff in Michigan, might not necessarily know their practices?
You're right. I mean, federal law enforcement is much different than local law enforcement. Nobody knows their community better than local law enforcement, state, county, and local sheriffs from cities and townships here in Michigan. And when you have tactics, it's not just the effecting of the arrest or raids like you see right here. These are relationships that are built when you're not answering 911 calls, when you're helping people out, when you're going to medical calls. So when things are intense, you do it in a way that when those moments happen, there's a public trust. But when there's law enforcement making decisions, no matter what the level, we're the only profession that now we're all painted with the same brush. That example of how this is being played out is not who we are. The local law enforcement does not wear masks. We wear identifications to make sure people know who we are. We communicate, and trust me, we're still in violent situations. You as a police officer, me for 33 years, You know, we are in the dangerous situations, but you can't shoot everybody that puts you in a situation of danger. That's our job.
And I wish I could stop there, but I can't, because these poorly trained, aggressive, and armed agents of the federal state have terrorized Minnesota with widespread unlawful conduct. They're making unconstitutional arrests and using excessive force. DHS agents have barged into restaurants asking to access secure areas. And when asked to present a warrant, which is required by law, they respond, "We don't need one." DHS agents have arrested peaceful bystanders. They have fired chemical irritants at people obeying lawful orders while exercising their First Amendment rights. They have even done so at some of our most sensitive places, like Roosevelt High School here in Minneapolis. They have detained law-abiding citizens, leaving them handcuffed for hours just because of the color of their skin or what they're wearing, or they speak English with an accent. And on January 7th, 2026, a DHS agent shot and killed Renee Nicole Good, leaving her children without a mother and her 6-year-old son without either parent. This has to stop. So let's be clear, it never should have started. These agents have no good reason to be here. Minnesota's non-citizen immigrant population is just 1.5%, which is half the national average. Our state's percentage is lower than Utah, Texas, and Florida's, but none of those states have thousands of federal agents swarming their streets or harming their people. The administration says that they're focused on finding criminals. Worst of the worst, they say. But many of the people the DHS is arresting in Minnesota have no criminal history. That fits a pattern. In 2025, 93% of the people arrested by ICE had no violent criminal history, 65% had no criminal convictions at all, and randomly stopping people in the street because their skin color isn't the one that they expect or want isn't doing a thing to help public safety. I've heard the administration talk about fraud. No, not the 43 fraud convictions the president has, or the $43 million fraudsters the president has pardoned, but instead saying that ICE is here to look for fraud somehow. You know, we work with federal government all the time, and if the federal government wants to help us with forensic accountants, we're open to that conversation. But these ICE agents who are engaged in the behavior that they're engaged in are not helping public safety at all. Immigration enforcement agents aren't trained to investigate fraud, and randomly stopping people in the street because you don't like their accent isn't going to stop fraud. So enforcing federal immigration law and fighting fraud are just pretexts for this surge. The real reason, it's no secret. Donald Trump and his administration have been targeting people, cities, and states that don't agree with them politically. He singled out Minnesota countless times. He's called us corrupt and crooked. He's attacked our funding to the tune of billions of dollars, which we are challenging. And we fought back, of course. He's attacked programs that Minnesotans rely on and tried to shut them down and pay taxes for. And he's attacked Minnesotans with despicable, racist, xenophobic language. The truth is, Donald Trump doesn't seem to like our state very much. But what's that about? He doesn't like our best in the nation, safe and secure elections. And sometimes he doesn't like who we choose in them. Just last week, Trump claimed that he won Minnesota 3 times, when in fact, he's never won Minnesota. He doesn't like how we take care of each other or how we make sure our kids have enough to eat. He doesn't like the strength that immigrant communities bring to our state. And he doesn't seem to like that we protect our neighbors no matter where they were born. In short, the Trump administration's decision to target Minnesota and Twin Cities is motivated by a desire to retaliate against Trump's perceived political opponents, who are the people of the state of Minnesota and Twin Cities, rather than any good faith concerns about immigration enforcement, public safety, or law enforcement. In conclusion, I didn't have the pleasure and the benefit of knowing Renee Nicole Good, but her friends and family knew her as someone who was kind, someone who loved her family deeply, and someone willing to stand up for her neighbors. That sounds like the Minnesota that I know. The administration wants to paint false political narratives about us, but we know who we are and we know our rights. The Constitution gives Minnesota the sovereign authority to protect health and well-being of every single person who lives on our borders. The Constitution gives us the right to vote for who we want, pray however we want, and be whoever we want, without fear of being racially profiled, assaulted, or killed in our own communities. We're going to defend those rights because as much as they like to believe it, DHS is not above the law, and the people of Minnesota are certainly not beneath